The yard one back.
There's the microphone.
Okay. Welcome to the Rio Grande. My name's Laurie McLean. I come from Sydney. This layout is called the Denver and Rio Grande Western. Obviously you can see it's based on a narrow gauge railroad, 3 foot between the rails. The locomotives and the rolling stock follow the prototype in model form, of course. The scenery that it runs through is typical of the area that Colorado is famous for. Coming around the corner down the end there where the camera's closest to now is my latest thing. It's got onboard sound system on it there now, and this is the first time we've run it. K36 number 486, pulling a string of cars there. Most of those are scratch built using plastic, and a few kits in there as well. The beauty of this is you can build all your own rolling stock, and you take pride in having it run around in front of the public and fellow modelers. What you see is a 3-year effort, starting off with the main centre section, which took me about 18 months to build, an 8-foot section, as a switching module originally, just for home, and it ended up turning into an exhibition layout. You're looking at about $10,000 worth of gear here. Locos, the electronics, the detail parts and everything. You really need to sit here and study the detail, because I've hidden a lot of detail for the observant type person to see, like behind trees, around the back of a fence, and all sorts of things. Nice and naughty, if you look closely. Operation on the railroad, well, being an exhibition layout, it's round and round, but we try and vary the trains. At the moment I'm talking, and I can't do too much of that. Can't do too many things at once. The yard does most of the work. Thanks very much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rail Motor Society's stand at the Model Railway Exhibition. The Society was formed in 1984 to preserve the CPH type rail motors that became redundant from the SRA's service. We now have 2 back in service, numbers 1 and 7, and we have been running tours throughout the Hunter Valley since October last year. Yesterday we ran trips to Belmont, which is a short distance from Newcastle, and it's a very small branch line that these days is only used by coal trains. We are the only society permitted to run on that line with our vehicles. We have several tours coming up in the very near future, one to Wybong, which is near Denman, and we run a very popular wine taster there. The next trip is on Sunday the 13th of September. And this will be another of our very popular Wybong wine tasters to Denman, which is a short distance from Muswellbrook. Following that, the trip to follow will be a family day trip to Murrurundi on Saturday the 17th of October. This has been organised as a family outing for a very modest fare of $22 for adults and $11 for children, which will include morning and afternoon tea on board and a barbecue lunch at the historic Murrurundi Station. After lunch, you'll be taking on a journey up over the Liverpool Range, or rather through the Liverpool Range, to Ard Glen, where there will be a short stop for people to take photos of the rail motors, and then it will be a leisurely trip home down the Hunter Valley back to Broadmeadow. Thank you for watching our history of the Rail Motor Society, and we look forward to seeing you on one of our tours in the near future.
I'm Gary Good from the Berwick District Model Railway Club. This is a Midigon. It's our Midigon layout, which we've been building over the last several years. We're trying to keep the period around about the 50s and 1960s, and the layout itself is based on the main station area and Regent Street, which is not the main street of Mittagong, it's the side street. It's got the RSL Club building in the centre, the old police station, and the hardware store next to it. And most of the houses and everything are, unfortunately we couldn't fit the complete street in, but we've fitted as much as we can in the area. The layout is only 24 foot long. We tried to simulate the sidings and everything much the same as Mittagong. One of our members is pretty good on making the scratch building most of the buildings for it. So we'd like to do a lot more with it, but at this stage I think it's going pretty well. And it's been quite enjoyable to operate over the weekend here actually. We've got about 30 members in the club. Only 7 of us come down to operate it this weekend. We've got to do a few more finishing touches to it as we go along. Station in the foreground on this side of the layout is not quite correct to what it should have been back in those days, because there used to be a garden area in that part of it, but we're going to do that eventually. As time goes on, there's always a lot of work to try and get it up to a reasonable standard.
Mcdonald. My layout is called Lenzkirch. It is a European prototype modelling the branch line between Neustadt and the village of Lenzkirch. The layout was originally constructed in 1975 and first went on exhibition here at Newcastle in that year. There are various prototype of locomotives. The one moving now is a Bavarian prototype. All the buildings are of commercial, either of Volmer, Kibri or Falla. The layout is made up of a steel frame with a wood risers, chicken wire over the top, and then gyprock plaster with woodland scenics and heike or woodland scenic trees to finish off the layout. The aim of this end of the layout is to show the city of Neustadt. In the left bottom corner here we have the iron foundry with the welding unit inside and the buckets transferring the produced goods from the factory to the warehouse. Further on we have the men working on the road with the flashing lights for drivers and an accident, the ambulance and the ambulance officers. The Ferris Wheel is a Falla exclusive kit and is designed using the 15 RPM motor. The buildings are Falla, modelling East Romberg, which is a restored area in a German city. The village is the city is the church is a Kibri church. Rolling stock on the main line are either Tricks or Lilliput, with some Roco, modelling the Orient Express or the Rheingold. The best exhibition, the best run exhibition of any that I have been to. I congratulate the organisers and hope that we get a return invitation next year.
The job view here, SMR layout. You've probably seen it around a few times. Been up here ever since we started building it, because we built it especially for the exhibition at Newcastle. What you're looking at the moment is Caledonia Station, with people wandering around all over the place trying to get pictures of it. Just wandering around through the station, there's the very latest 47 class from Kishila Hobbies. We got a few things happening around the place, a lot of things not happening around the place too. But, as you wander down through it, this is Cali Station. As it was, we feel around the 50s. There's still a lot of buildings in that to be finished on it. Still a bit of scenery to go on it. Back roads are not working yet, but we're heading towards that way. This is the other side of the same layout, would you believe? The western side. What we've tried to do here was create a little bit of history on both these stations, with Cali on one side and with Western on the other side. Trains wandering through Western, we've tried to make it so that we can run a train, an up train and a down train all the time, to keep the customers happy as they wander through, with the idea we can do a bit of shunting in the exchange sidings at the back of Western. What we're looking at now is through down through the Swamp Creek, wandering back down through the cutting. I think that's what we've been looking at the moment. And there it is, the Western's fairly standard station. You can see most of the anybody that knows that area at all have picked it out pretty well. We get a lot of people coming, especially up here at Newcastle, saying, gee whiz, you know, I live around that way. And it has brought back a lot of memories to a lot of the older people, and even some of the young people. A young girl in here last night that was in about her 20s and 30s, she can remember catching the train from Cessnock, from Caledonia and Cessnock down to Western. So it brings back memories for the young people.
Welcome to the model show here at Newcastle, and I'm from Euro Model Distributors at Mittagong, and we have a layout that you're looking at the present moment with quite a lot of action on it. As you can see, there's a cable car with the gondolas, and also a vernacular, the red vernacular that's coming out in, and it'll change over in the middle lane, and also a narrow gauge or 12mm TT FO loco that's Swiss prototype with the Sommerfeld catenary. And on the HO gauge there's a Fleischmann loco from a limited run with a carriage and a car in the back. It's working on a point-to-point system. What it'll do, it'll come back to the point control and then wait a few seconds with some switching gear that we've got there and go back into the tunnel. We've had a wonderful time at the show here. A lot of people have been asking us questions about our products that we distribute to the shops. We distribute Fleischmann, Limo, Brawa, Nock, Volmer, Sommerfeld catenary, and a lot of books and other items that you can see around The Brawa is mainly on accessories. Lighting, lovely lighting, mostly brass, very prototypical of the German railways and so forth. Also, we distribute Reaper uncouplers that fit onto your track. It's a simple to fit on your track, that the layout's already been done. And also at the show we're showing our FMZ unit that controls 119 locos. And it has a little receiver that fits in the loco, and it's coded, and you call it up on your FMZ unit. Well, we'll just walk around and we'll see. We ask these lovely people to move out of the road for us. It has the three basic components: the power unit, the central control desk, which will control 119 locos, and also hand controllers, which you can have 8 individual hand controllers. You program your receiver into your central desk, which works a train. So I'll do that for you quite. Right? Okay, I'll call up my little loco over there, which I've already called it a 60. Call one, and I can use my hand controller, which is on, which is this one, and away it'll go. I can turn some lights on using the same principle, calling it up, turn the lights on, and the lights will start working. Also on the layout, I have a standard DC loco, which is the ice train. It hasn't got a receiver, and it'll also work on the layout as well. And what I have to do there is change a few points so I can get it to come out onto the track for you. And that's one without a receiver working on the same system. The black loco in front is on the other hand control, which I've already previously programmed into the system. And it goes off as well. I think the lights are on that one. And also work the DC logo on the same layout. Now what I'll do, I'll just run the ice train around to show its capability of its speeds. What I'm doing, I'm just calling up these receivers over here to control all my points and signals. Now, because this is a very fast train, we'll give it a run for the public. And hope to God it doesn't come off. Knowing Rafferty's rules, it probably will. It runs in both directions, and I have got a slight program worked out to put it back in its little house. Just by flicking one flick, it'll go back in the siding that it came out of before. And the brakes didn't work real good, obviously it's got overheated. Thank you.
We're looking at Hamworthy Old Pool. This railway is owned by David Lord and son Christopher, originally built by Philip Knife in 1975. The layout has been developed over recent years to the stage it presently is, and is built and operated to represent prototypical operation. In exhibiting for the public, we have working signals and a sound system which is synchronized with the trains. And currently we can see the goods train slowly moving into the main station. You'll shortly notice the signals will operate, and this train will pull up with a screech of brakes, which probably won't be audible in this particular hall, but still. The railway is 00 gauge, fine scale. Most of the stock is hand built or modified proprietary items. Most of the scratch built stock is of cardboard and balsa wood. The buildings are built by Ken Gray. Some of Ken Gray's very early buildings. And as you can see, the operation is quite intensive.
With good trains like this, on which the only running brakes were those on the engine in the guard stand. Now the way is clear for the departure of the morning express to London. 4 beats on the signal box bell tell the signalman at Litchfield Minster that it's time for the express to go. As soon as he accepts the train, the starting signals are pulled off. And away down the platform, the guards whistle.
Just seeing the express train move on its way towards London and moving into the Peter Denny type fiddle yard, which is a traverser type system. The fiddle yard moves from side to side, and when all the trains are in that box, it is lifted up and turned around, and the train program starts again in the opposite direction.
Welcome to the multinational New England Junction. It's the exhibit of Newcastle Model Railway Club, formerly Newcastle Engage Model Railway Club. The club's changed its direction slightly since last year by incorporating an HO section into it. By no means divides the club because one section works with the other. This is our only exhibit this year apart from our display board, but all the members are quite enthusiastic with manning it and keeping it in running condition. The big thing with the layout is having trains running for the viewing public. We're not particularly worried what nationality they are. We've got American, English or British, and quite a lot of Australian made stuff. A lot of scratch-built Australian. It's not the sort of nitpickers. It'd be a nitpicker's paradise, this layout, because to see an American loco running past an Australian loco is quite unheard of. As you can see, there's quite a lot of American rolling stock running. Club members aren't biased one way or the other, although there seems to be quite a hold-up just at present. This year's exhibition seems to have been quite well attended. Everybody seems to have enjoyed themselves. I just hope that the people that have paid to come through the door have enjoyed themselves as much as the exhibitors.
We have 2 bottles operating today, main bottle canvas, and other instances near the stage and the canteen is a passageway that runs into our hall.
Much for the opportunity of showing our layout at this year's exhibition.
Welcome to the Franklin County Railroad. Welcome to the Franklin County Railroad. And I'd like to thank the Hunter Region Railway Modelers for inviting me here again this year. It's always a pleasure to come to this exhibition. You're currently looking at the town of Crabapple Cove on the coast of Maine. Train arriving in the station is the Rangeley Express. Stops at most stations along the run, except the little whistle stops. The train normally fetches holiday makers to the area, which is famous for its fishing and deer shooting and camping recreations. Passes the haunted house, once owned by a famous industrialist, and drops down the grade to go past Jolliffe's farm. It's got a clear signal, so it carries on through under the bridge towards Possum Hollow. Currently, the layout is in a fairly finished state, although no layout is ever finished. Every time it comes to an exhibition, we try and add a new building or some new scenes or some major alterations to keep the public interested. We try and keep all trains running so that people have got something to watch, and when there's no train actually passing through, they can look at some of the detailed parts of the layout. We have a great deal of pleasure in exhibitions, meeting the public, answering questions, and a few of the automatic functions of the layout help us to talk to the public, answer questions, and help them with any interest in model railways.
The house you're looking at now is a model scratch built by Tim Stewart of a house that is on Pennant Hills Road at Thornley. It's called, we've nicknamed it the Paling Street House because it's on the corner of Paling Street. Completely scratch built using styrene card and windows and other fittings imported from America. The rest of the equipment around the place is a collection of Tim's that he's had for some considerable time. The little barn on the left is one that has been modelled from a barn in Blacktown, and the hay loft is one from Seven Hills, which has since been demolished. The other equipment there is largely manufactured from pieces imported from America and suitably modified for Australian standards. What you're at now is from the farm end of a Beckett's Creek layout. It's the latest section to be scenicked. It started off initially with the centre section some 3 years ago at Barara Scouts train exhibition. It was then extended to operate the entire loop, and the main township of Beckett's Creek was first exhibited at Parramatta in 1985. Since then we've been adding to it. The logo shed was completely scratch built from New South Wales plans, once again by Tim. The signal this side of the shed is a ratio signal fitted with a Future X point motor to give the old style of solenoid points, and the ones on the fiddle yard have been made using telephone type relays. All the track is code 70 Shinohara with Shinohara points, and the ballasting is the conventional method of aquadeer mixed with water and then soaked into the ballast once it's been laid dry. The locomotive pulling into number 4 platform is the 36 class prototype that Tim has had for some considerable time, and the carriages are a mixture of old style and some of the later ones. The locomotive that runs backwards and forwards from the engine shed to the goods yard is on an automatic timer based on an American circuit that was published in their magazine some 12 months ago. It's proved very reliable and a great entertainment for the people waiting. The Schoolhouse is a scratch-built school done from plans and photographs taken of the school at Arcadia. There is a photograph that is very, very similar to the school. The trees are made by using wire dipped in red skin and then Ozflock pieces on the top of them. The building on the corner, the shop, is actually the plumber's shop for an American kit, suitably modified. The bus is one that has been around for quite some considerable time. Telephone box has been modified to have the correct style of roof on it. And the house you're looking at now is a scratch-built one based on one in Galston Road, Galston. Once again, a lot of detail has been put into it to reproduce the replica. The only difference that I've been able to pick is largely the colours. The baker's shop is one that was built using a number of kits put together to achieve the required result. The chook house out the back is a specialty scratch built from nowhere. The garage consists of a metal kit and some cars that are quite old and would be very hard to replace. The next building behind the barber's shop is modified from the American two-story building that a lot of people would be familiar with, and it's had the roof, the first floor taken off and an Australianised roof installed on it. Likewise with the barber's shop, it's been suitably modified to look like an Australian version. The church is a standard kit, and the house adjacent to the church is one that has been scratch built, the same as the Etamoga pub of that famed name. The next building past that is the Livery Stable, which is a very good copy of the one at Swan Hill. The trees once again are manufactured using the redskin technique, using some small sections of a kit and then largely kit bash to obtain all the rest of the details. It was used on Tim's original layout and has been cut from that layout and fits neatly in the spot. The join is suitably disguised by parking trucks in the appropriate spot. The bridge across the reel of Beckett's Creek, since there's no other Beckett's Creek in existence, has been scratch built by Tim, and there's something like 170 pieces of timber in it, and it took some 5 or 7 days to build in situation. The fence is manufactured once again by using small pieces of timber cut up and each one glued in position. The telephone poles are manufactured using pieces of square timber with nails set in for the insulators, and then a piece of brass flattened out to give you the cross-arm support, and then once again mounted on a section of Code 70 rail. First locomotive 3827 is a model dockyard. 3801 has been scratch built from a Lima kit and modified extensively to reach the state that it's in at present. It suffered some damage in the fall, but other than that has worked quite faultlessly for a number of years. The layout, of course, is in a continual state of expansion and modification. Our intention is that every exhibition there should be something more for the people to look at and other things to make it easier for the operators. We hope that you've enjoyed this view of Beckett's Creek.
This is the Dubbo Model Railway Club layout, appropriately or inappropriately named Trunky Creek. It's a layout that was built in Orange and acquired by Dubbo some 2 years ago. Standard construction on steel 25mm square hollow section with the appropriate overlay of pine board on which the top hamper is constructed. Features all Pico track, code 100, with electrics built up from 18 volts AC on the secondary of the transformer and gradually increased then. The layout as you see it now is operated on it with a mixture of rolling stock owned by members and visitors. The 81s that you see coming around past the main station, part of the bewitching hour at the end of most.
You get that little girl, pull her finger down a bit.
At the end of most exhibitions, when it is usually try to pull the longest train possible. The layout's been in our possession now 2 years, been constructed some 3 years, is in 4 sections, transported on its own frame mounted on normally on a 6x4 trailer. This is the third time we've been to Newcastle. We've done 3 out of their 4 exhibitions. It's always been a great pleasure to come to Newcastle. We're very gladly received. We have a wonderful time, and it's usually quite sorry when the time comes we've got to go home.
Hello. That is a coal train and
You're not taking that home. I'm going down here.
Hello, darling, how
I'm from the RTM, the Rail Transport Museum, Thirlmere, and that we've had quite a successful day here at the model exhibition, and the different books. People are very keen on buying the books and the train memorabilia. The trays I've been selling have been quite popular. The books of Ron Preston's, the rulers, pens and pencils, and the postcards, videotapes, they're all very popular things for sale. The nice glasses that we have for the 3801 and the 50 class locomotives are $3. Right. There's a nice tray for the lady for $3. Quite popular. 1 o'clock this morning and I haven't had a free moment. I've been quite happy to come here, and I think if next year, if possible, I'll be here again. Thank you.
Right, today we're displaying some brass and some buildings, besides doing a little bit of turning, a bit of soldering, and a bit of public education. Having a look around today, I think we've really had a terrific time here today, and I think the public have really enjoyed what we've been putting on for them. In fact, we've had them 4 and 5 deep here today. Particularly with the small lathe going, they've been somewhat intrigued by the small lathe. So much so that I've doing all the little monotonous jobs I would normally have done at home, but it's come out okay.
The darker brown in the cup.
There's no brochures for step by step, is there? You don't have a brochure for step by step.
No, but any of the books such as you know, prairies and this sort of thing. And you get those in most model shops.
Of course, yeah. What are you using for your train wall?
Hang on, I'll pull something through across the ridge.
Well, my name's Brian Moore. This layout is operated by both myself and my wife. Construction was started 1979. It's been around for about 9 years. Done quite a few exhibitions. It's constructed supposedly on American styling. There's no particular area. It's a freelance design. All models running are American. A variety of manufacturers, from brass locomotives down to the original plastic bodies, as people say. The layout itself is constructed on a pine board decking. Scenery has started off in the far end with a paper mache pattern and graduated through to the wire netting and plaster over the top, of which I'm more in favour of. The layout itself is 18 feet long, in the old measurements this is, and also it's 4 feet wide, in 2 sections, transportable around on a box trailer. As I say, travelled quite extensively throughout New South Wales, Tamworth, Taree, etc., Canberra, travelled through all sorts of weather. Sleet, very heavy rain, a little bit of snow. It's travelled through the lot and had stood up very well, I think. This end is the original end. It was, as I say, started in 1979. It was originally to be the layout. But as with the usual things, it graduated and extended from there on. It's on 3 levels. Main line running mainly, single line, folded over itself to give it the effect of a twin tracks. A lot of stuff like station, platforms, etc. have been handmade, with bridges. All the buildings are kit form in plastic. Stations, as I say, are homemade. And different things like that. I just hope that this has helped a lot of people. I've had a terrific time here. I just hope that we do get invited back, because it's just unreal the way we have been treated by the Newcastle boys. I just hope that someday I could do the same for them in return. Thank you very much. I just hope it has helped a little bit.
Ashlington is the Coalfield Model Railway Club's attempt to recreate the era of the Great Western Railways. It's set in the late 1940s and early 50s. As can be seen, the layout is far from finished and much work lies ahead of us, particularly with regards to the scenery. In the planning stage, much thought was put into the construction method, leg system, track plan and electrical wiring. Invaluable lessons were learnt from the last layout which we constructed and exhibited here last year. Incidentally, the reason for the new layout is that the other was severely damaged by vandals. Insofar as the construction of the baseboards, it was decided to use the tabletop method in preference to the open frame of the old one. Smaller grade timber, thinner chipboard and the use of styrene foam to form the scenery has resulted in really light sections, which is a big help in the setting up and dismantling of the layout. It's also cheaper to build. The leg system is unique in its design and construction. 1-inch tubular steel is used throughout, providing an extremely strong and stable support for the layout. After the dimensions of the layout were agreed upon, which is 17 feet by 7.5, planning for the track layout went ahead. It was decided that for exhibitions it was essential that it be a double mainline oval. We have also opted for the traditional island layout with centre well for the operators and a fiddle yard storage yard at the back, with only the front being displayed to the public. But because it is also the club layout, we needed some variety in the form of the goods yard, which is operated separately and allows shunting operations to proceed. It is interesting to note that we have left the way open for expansion in the form of the branch line, which will eventually go to the nearby village of Westford. At the moment it lies derelict and rusting, with some of it already pulled up. The electrics are reasonably simple, with all points electrified and operated by electric probe at the control panel. The buildings will eventually all be scratch built and are based on real Great Western Railway buildings built from plans and photographs. Those that are kits or will or have already been super detailed. Now that we know the track work is satisfactory, work will proceed on the scenery with many mini scenes planned to form what we hope will become an excellent layout. It certainly has the potential, and we are confident that we will achieve the goals which we have set. The Broadmeadow exhibition is certainly, as was described by a judge last night, a modeller's exhibition. The standard of the layouts has been excellent. We've really enjoyed participating in it. The fellows that built the layout, John O'Brien, Mark Kennedy and myself, Roger Weeks, we've had a really, really great time here, and we thank the organisers for inviting us.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great privilege to take part in another of those marvellous Femister productions. Here I stand in front of the great man himself as the lens homes in and goes almost to the very top of my nostrils. Have you studied the way he picks out the hairs and the other pertinent features of each and every air passage? We're just about to hang one of the passers-by and one of the customers, but fear not, we haven't lost a patron yet. You'll make sure that you buy this production when it goes onto the air, won't you? Because without your support, Femister won't be able to stay in business and my collection won't grow. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Ivan Campbell. Me and Jeff Mullier constructed this layout in Narrafairston. It's a branch line Great Western layout based somewhere in the Cornish area on the Great Western Railway. It's taken us a total of 8 months to complete this layout, but we only really started actually building it a month ago, and Friday night it was a rush to get it finished by cutting out the back scene and doing all the scenery that's on the layout now. I worked from 12 o'clock midday to 12 o'clock at night trying to get it finished, and luckily it pulled through and had a few bugs on Saturday morning, but now it's running fairly perfectly. It's a single track operation at the moment, but it's been designed so that with a bit of rail laid from the road bridge through to the second tunnel mouth, the layout will be two double track operation. The train pulling in at the station is a mainline railways 57 class with a rake of mainline coaches comprising of sunshine stock and 2 B-set brakes on either end. It's passing a freight train, a Great Western Freight, with a large prairie at the front and a mixture of ventilated vans and some coke wagons at the end. On the layout we have the usual setup with the station of the building and the footbridge and the waiting shoulder and huts and the station lamps and fence. We placed the signal box on the platform because on a few stations signal boxes were placed in a location like this. The buildings are mostly all kit built, although the goods shed's scratch built, and the coal safe's also scratch built as well. The lamps are Mike's models and the crane is Mike's model kit as well. The road vehicles are a mixture of Merritt and Cooper Craft and another Italian brand. Ferriston, which layout is called, came from the 3 stations on which the layout was based. It was based on 3 different Great Western stations. One was Narberth, the other was Fairford, and the last one was Johnston. And to get the name Narrafairston, we just took bits out of each name and put them together to form the complete name. The station area itself is based on Johnston, and the goods yard and the goods shed is from Fairford, and the overall track design is from Narberth. It will be running, there's a double track later on with a bit more work. It will turn out a lot better than what it is at the moment. That's all.
Warra
is the layout of the New South Wales Model Railway Club. The club's been in existence about 25 years. It has a membership of 12, and this represents the 4th layout that the club has built. The layout itself is modelled on the slopes country in New South Wales, as you can see from the topography we've chosen. The actual construction is the usual egg crate type baseboard. It's covered with the styrene foam. The styrene foam is then shaped, and the usual array of plaster, sawdust and various dyes, tints, flocks are used to represent typical countryside. One of the features of the layout is that all track is hand laid using code 70 for the main lines and code 55 for the sidings that are attached there too. Also, we've tried to get a bit of individuality about it in that every building on the layout has been scratch built by one of the members. The station itself, which is called Warra, was originally intended to be the station that was to be installed at Willow Tree. The railways, for one reason or another, decided that the economies of the time wouldn't allow a brick station to be built, and in the end they settled for the standard A3 type. But we've elected to build Warra as it might have been, and a very similar station can be seen at Corindi in New South Wales. The rolling stock is a mixture of brass, the better type cast kits, injected styrene, epoxy, the whole gamut of kits scratch built. And again, we try to achieve the best we can in terms of realism in brake gear, weathering, etc., etc. The layout also features a working turntable, which is the New South Wales standard 50-footer, and has a locomotive engineman's barracks, which is based on the barracks at Inverell. We've tried to pick suitable prototypes throughout the state which tend to represent the railways of New South Wales rather than go for a particular prototype. For instance, the station layout itself is based on Gundagai, and if your eyes are good enough, there is even a station diagram alongside the open ground frame on the platform. You'll see at the moment that we've got a rail motor coming out from the hidden storage sidings. There's a nest of these 10 storage sidings, and we're able to work the layout on the principle of having a staff for the section, as the prototype does. We feel this gives added interest to the layout. It makes for greater complication in the actual running of the layout, and we've had to do quite a bit of training to be able to achieve the fairly complicated movements that are entailed in crossing trains in prototypical fashion. Plans for the future are to add further detail to the layout. We've got, we believe, a good overall impression, but there's a lot of things still to be done in terms of fine-tuning the scenery, putting on those little bits and pieces that turn what can be an average scene into something which approaches the realism of the real thing. This is going to be a longer-term process. The layout itself is only 2 years old, but we've enjoyed every minute of building it, just as we've enjoyed every minute of our weekend here with the Newcastle exhibition. It's certainly the friendliest of exhibitions. We've been lucky enough to win a prize. That's delighted us, and we'll certainly be delighted to come back again.
Russell's told me to read out of this thing, but
The Newcastle Tramway Muse, oh hell, here, look. This was made by Russell Femister. We all know Russell Femister's very fine, whatever it is, that he's very good. What I like most of all is he has some very interesting, and people have found very interesting things, like the spoof on the ad. This bloody old Stan over there eating a pie and feeding his face instead of helping this poor damsel. And there's Steve running around helping. Over here we have the Scottish band, and they played all the weekend and very much appreciated by people. You can hear the tram over the other side saying tinga 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 ting. That's another one of the things. I'm sorry Russell didn't get the first prize for this. I think probably he didn't get it because he was out here in the back hall. But certainly those of us who worked with him, and this is not bull, brother, those of us who worked with him know that it was damn good stuff.